Okay, I'm gonna make this a quick video because I just recorded basically the entire thing, and was very, very rudely interrupted. So now I'm gonna have to do the whole thing over, but I won't waste your guys' time. I know you guys don't care about that. Let's just jump right into the main event. Israel Adesanya versus Jared Cannonier. I got Izzy all day in this, and I think if you're betting on Jared, you're a sucker. I'll plainly put it that way, and that's the only fight I'll say this for the entire card. I think every one of these guys that Izzy has fought, these big power puncher guys, look at the Vittori fight, look at his fight with Romero, look at his fight with Costa, just controls the outside and is able to easily dodge or glance off the big blows. The the Costa fight was the perfect example is that as soon as Costa wanted to exchange, he was blasted and just really just his combinations weren't there. Costa was bad that night, but Izzy was really solid, and he does that to these guys, these bigger power puncher guys. Had a longer reach. He's younger. He's taller. Everyone knows that Izzy's probably weakness is probably his takedown defense, but even then, it's still really good. They just say that because he doesn't go for wrestling and he's not a takedown guy himself. But his takedown defense is solid. So I'm going to go with Adesanya. Use him in your parlays. But I think he could get this done either by KO or by decision. I mean, look at his last fight. Like I said, the Tory one's a really good example. Like, he basically controlled like 85% of that fight and really never was in any threat. I know he had the submission attempt against him, but easily slipped it. This guy's just a GOAT. I think he's going to dominate Jared in every fashion. And if Jared wins this fight, it's by super, super lucky knockout, like an overhand right. But it's MMA. Never know what could happen. But Izzy's my boy. I got to ride him. Next fight. We're going on. I think really this should be the main event. Volkanovski versus Holloway 3. Super anticipated third fight. I know the second one was razor thin, but I thought that Volk did win it. It was super, super tight. He lost the first 2 rounds and came back. But I just think, man, Volk, this guy's just on another level, man. I mean, his fight against Ortega proved how tough he was. And then the fight against Korean Zombie just proved how, like, hungry he was. Like, just to prove his legacy and, like, how much better he was than a lot of these guys. I know Korean Zombie is pretty washed at this point. But, I mean, that was probably one of the biggest beatdowns I've ever seen in this sport. Easily, probably should have been stopped earlier, to be honest. But I'm liking Volkanovski again by decision, and probably another controversial one too. But I think if you want to hedge, don't just bet on Max. Bet on Max by decision. And I think this is going to be a good hedge because I don't really see Volk getting finished. I know he got dropped in their last fight, but I mean, he got like right back up to his feet. So definitely I'm going to be taking Volk. I think minus 200 is a little too long. So I'm thinking the best play on my mind. I know it's probably everyone's play, but the Volk Izzy parlay, yeah, minus 120 is pretty solid. I think those are good odds, and maybe even look to get Volkanovski in a live spot. Because, I mean, like I said, he went down 2 rounds to nothing in their first fight. That would have definitely made him the underdog live. Probably pretty solid underdog price. So look to get him. And Izzy, I don't think you'll get any price lower than this. I think he'll just keep climbing and climbing. So that's probably my favorite play so far. But let's just keep moving on to these fights. This is one of the best cards I've ever seen. It's so stacked. We got Sean Strickland versus Alex Preya. And this one's pretty interesting because at middleweight, these guys are basically the top, I would say. Maybe not top, but like right at the cusp of fighting for a title. And both of these guys are definitely, they will get a title shot, whoever wins this. I'll just be straight up. I think Strickland his key to victory in this fight is use wrestling and use grappling. Preya is a kickboxer. He's known, his fame was knocking out Izzy He beat him in another fight after. So he's definitely gonna get a title shot. It's crazy. He's only 5-1, and he's getting a title shot. But I think this is a pick'em fight. They have Strickland, yeah, -120. I think he was a slight underdog before, but it's been a pick'em. So I think Strickland, man, I think he could probably do it by submission. I've seen like 10-1, 12-1 on Strickland by submission. But I think this bet him money line, I think out of all the straight bets, like if you had to bet this one bet, maybe not the most confident, but the straight up, I would choose probably Sean Strickland with including the odds. That's what I mean. So I'm gonna go with Strickland. I think it's just hard to fade this guy. I know it's this Preya guy, like they're propping him up to fight Izzy, like I said, but Strickland, man, he could really take a punch. He could really deliver one too. I just think if he wants to win this fight, he can't do the crazy stuff he always does, like yelling in the cage, wanting to like throw down, do these crazy things in the middle of the ring. He's got to be composed. He's got to be fully in there, and he's got to treat this not like a glorified sparring session. So his key to victory will be wrestling and clinch game and jiu-jitsu and all this. Basically, just not going to stand there and strike with this guy. That's going to be his key to victory. So nothing too crazy again. Strickland, take him. I like the bet. Now, first stay away bet is going to be Ruthless Robbie Lawler versus Brian Barberena. I think Robbie, yeah, he looked good in his last fight, but man, it was against Nick Diaz. Like, that guy hasn't gotten a win in like a decade. And Lawler, I mean, he got destroyed by it was Covington, so it's easy to. He just hasn't been that good at as of lately. And Barberena, he's not too bad either. Both these guys are just really stand-up guys. They don't wrestle a ton. So especially Barberena, he doesn't wrestle too much. But I think this is a stay away fight. Just don't bet it. It's gonna be fun to watch, but just don't bet it. Moving on to this fight, it's the Sean O'Malley versus Pedro Munoz fight. I think honestly, Sugar Show is a pretty solid bet. If you don't want to do Volkanovski, you could probably do Sean O'Malley, probably -1. Yeah, it's pretty juicy, but I like that as well. And I probably am leaning towards Sean O'Malley by decision, but I think he can win by knockout. He has all the right tools. He loves hunting for those crazy highlight reel knockouts, and he really just has every attribute in his corner. He's younger. He's super tall for 135. What is that, an 8-inch or 7-inch reach advantage? He's really going to pick this guy apart from the outside. I know Pedro Munoz has pretty good leg kicks, but just look for O'Malley to stay on his feet. He does not want to get taken down. Everyone knows O'Malley doesn't have the best wrestling, and he also will not want to get leg kicked too much. So look for O'Malley to change stances a lot, because Pedro Munoz has crazy good leg kicks. Just look at his last few fights. He blasts leg kicks. And but Munoz, he's sort of on a downhill. He's 1-4 in his last 5 fights. Granted, those are against good guys. Probably should have won the fight against Frankie Edgar. He was robbed. But I'm just looking at the here and now and the record. I'll probably take Sean O'Malley by decision, but like I said, he can knock out basically anyone if he hits him on the button. This guy's striking is really solid. I know people overrate him, but he's a solid fighter. Don't sleep on O'Malley, and that's why he's definitely the rightful favorite, -300. I think is another solid parlay piece too. I think O'Malley gets this one done for us. Moving on to the prelim card. I usually do these backwards the other way, but I just wanted to jump straight into it because my first video got messed up. My favorite fight in the prelim card is actually the feature prelim, and this is Jalen Turner versus Brad Riddell. And I'm liking Jalen Turner a lot. The tarantula is solid. This kid is really, really tough. And again, another fight where he has basically every attribute in his corner. He's younger. 6'2" for 155 is massive. That's got to be one of the tallest guys in this weight class. And he has a 6-inch reach advantage. This kid's solid, and I think his best attribute about him is definitely his wrestling clinch game. His nickname's the tarantula for a reason. Like, once when he gets on you, He's like, literally, it's like he has like 8 limbs on you. Like he's just locking you down. Nothing's getting away from this kid. Brad Riddell is solid though, but I wouldn't sleep on him either. And the odds show it. It is crazy because Jalen Turner I think was actually a slight dog, and now he's actually minus 150. So pretty firm favorite, I would say. I mean, I always say anything under minus 200, and in UFC is basically an even fight. But minus 150, I think, is still a lot of money coming in on Jalen Turner. And I think he could get this done in a variety of ways. He could win by knockout, win by a submission, he could win by decision. He really could win at any way. So I would avoid props, but just look to just play his money line. Moving on. And the second stay away fight, in my opinion, is Old Man Cowboy versus Miller Time Anytime, Jim Miller. Both of these guys are tied for most wins in UFC history. I think they have like 23 or 22. So either guy who wins this will have the most wins in the UFC. Pretty insane, actually. I'm surprised these guys. I think they have fought earlier in their careers, but I mean, so far long ago, it just doesn't even matter. And I don't know, man. I want to see Cowboy win, but I mean, look at the last fight he had. It was like a standing TKO stoppage. It was a really, really bad look. And I just feel like Cowboy, if you get on him early, like the Conor fight was a really good example, and his last fight especially. I can't remember who he fought, but man, he got finished quick. And if you get on this guy quick, Cowboy, man, it's like he's like a deer in headlights. He doesn't know what to do. He's like confused. He's got to get going first. Like once when he gets in the second round, third round, he could really put a beating on a guy. So I think if Cowboy can survive, he could win this fight. But again, just stay away from this fight. This is just two old guys, basically your dads, fighting against each other. And Donald Cerrone, he was booked with Joe Lozon, I think at 155, and he looked like a skeleton on the scale. He looked super depleted, just didn't look good at all. And I don't know, man. Cowboy, I think he's got to be done soon. So I think maybe even if he wins this fight, he might retire. But I mean, the guy just keeps going and going. He hasn't really said too much about retiring, but it's tough to say. The guy's so old, taking so many L's. Miller is sort of on a resurgence too, I would say. I think he's won his last 2 fights, and he's been the underdog in both of them. But now he's like minus 200, Miller, which I would sort of suspect that he's that big of a favorite. I mean, it's against Cowboy, so I guess it's understandable. But just stay away. Just a fun fight to like watch with your buddies, like have a few beers, laugh with. But just stay away for sure. Moving on. Next fight, they have the future, as they call him, Ian Gary versus Gabe Green. And I'm going to go with Ian Gary here. Nothing too crazy, just a small little play. But I really think that the UFC is propping this guy up. Sort of like Alex Preya against Strickland. But Gary, man, they're really propping this guy up like he's like the next Conor or something. I'm not saying he's like that, but I think he's a solid fighter. I think he's good. He's really decently heavy hands. Can control the pocket pretty well. I forget the organization that he fought in Ireland, or it was in England, but he held a belt over there. He's pretty solid, and I think he'll probably win this by decision, but I think he can also win it by knockout. His last few fights have been pretty tailor-made to him, especially the Darian Weeks fight. That one looked pretty, I mean, really winnable, like in almost every scenario. It really didn't look like in that deep of waters, I would say. But the last few times he's fought, he's been like minus 500. And now you could get him for basically minus 180. I saw him for minus 160 earlier. So pretty good price if you like Gary. And I probably will bet a little bit on Gary, but nothing too crazy. I think Gary... I think he can get this done in a variety of ways, but just don't go crazy with Gary. Don't max him out. I think he's a solid little play. Throw him in maybe a parlay or something like that, or just play him straight. Minus 180 isn't best odds, but I think he gets this done. And finally, the last fight I'll touch on is this DDP versus Brad Tavares fight. I think DDP can definitely win by knockout. He has a lot of knockouts on his record. He's younger. He has a little bit of a reach advantage, and he's super aggressive. This guy is, and he's been training a bunch. He was, I think, lined up to fight with Gastelum a few weeks ago, and then Gastelum pulled out. But DDP, he's hungry. He's frothing at the bit for a fight, and this guy's fun to watch too. He has a lot of just mixes up his game plan a lot. He changes stances a lot, and he doesn't fight too much though. But he's been training a lot though, which I like to see, and I think he does win this fight. Brad Tavares, he's not a bad fighter, but I think DDP does get this one done, and I think the odds are pretty close. If I saw. Yeah, he's again late money coming in on DDP. It was a pick'em, now minus 150. Again, you could Bovada, not the best line sometimes, but shop around. You could probably get him for like minus 120, minus 130. But that'll probably be about it. I might do another recap video, and I'm gonna be at MGM Casino in Detroit, so I will be trying to do some live reactions, maybe even a face reveal. Might be hype. But definitely looking to have at least a few videos from there. It's going to be super hype. It's going to be one of the best cards, I think. I don't really see this card falling flat in its face, and if it does, oh well, I guess I'll eat my words for it. But my main play, like, I'll round off this video. Like I said, the Volk Izzy parlay I'm really liking. I'm liking Strickland, this money line straight. OMalley by decision. Turner money line. I think he could get it done in a variety of ways. I know, he's betting on all the favorites. He's betting on all the favorites. Well, I think this is a solid. I mean, I think I provided pretty good stats for all these guys. The only underdog I sort of can see winning is maybe Uriah Hall. His price keeps going up a lot. He was like only plus 200. Now he's plus 255. So Uriah Hall is really hit or miss. If he's going to win, he's probably going to win by knockout. His ground game's pretty horrible. It's not too good. And Munoz is really solid. I think he's like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. So I think Munoz will, or I think it's Muniz actually, will win by submission, I think. Maybe not a bad look. But I think Hall, man, that guy has some serious power in his hands. He can basically shut down anyone. So I think he could win. That might be my one dog of the night. But other than that, I think the favorites basically roll, especially Adesanya. Volk might get a little greasy, I think, like the first two fights. But I think these guys have fought 50 minutes. They know each other's ins and outs. And I think Volk, since that fight, has gotten better, while Holloway has stayed the same or maybe has gotten worse. I mean, his fight against Yair Rodriguez, I mean, that was a pretty close fight. He took a bunch of shots in that fight. Same with Yair. He was pretty bloodied up too. But Holloway wasn't unscathed. I'll say that for sure. But yeah, that's going to round off my video. The next video might be maybe like a Wimbledon semifinal, final video. But definitely look to see that in a few days. But thanks, guys, for checking out my last Wimbledon preview. Went pretty solidly. I know Herc, he didn't win out, but it happens sometimes. Novak's still going good for our future, though. He's playing really good tennis right now. But anyways, I'll end off this video. Hope everyone has a good 4th of July, and see you after our bets cash. Let's go.